Okay, hi everyone, welcome to Generation Logistics Week. We are joined today by Emily and Elliot at Asda, who are going to tell you a little bit about their career journey, which hopefully you have heard already joined us as part of Generation Logistics Week, heard from, I think we have 45 voices and 16 companies over the course of this week. So whatever part of the week you are joining us for, hopefully you have found out a lot about logistics so far. But a refresher before we tuck in to Emily and Elliot's career journey about exactly what we are talking about over the course of this week, because it can be quite nebulous. So this is our simple supply chain. When you are talking to your kids in class, this is probably one of the better ways to do it. So plan, source, make, deliver, something coming from raw materials into the supplier, being made, distributed. That's where core logistics sits, transport and storage, to the retailer, to the consumer. There's a whole other thing called reverse logistics, which is how we make returns, which is one of the classroom challenges that we ask young people to solve, actually. But that is for another day. We shall talk reverse logistics, perhaps, if we get to come and visit you in schools. But this is what we're talking about. And I think I won't ask you to say so out loud, but please do reflect on whether you perhaps prior to Generation Logistics Week thought that logistics was truck driving and picking and packing, because most people do. And of course it is. Both of those jobs are absolutely necessary, but they are a tiny, tiny part of what the logistics sector does. Before we ask Emily and Elliot where they fit in to our job families, we wanted to share this with you. This is the depth and breadth of the logistics sector, and it's ever changing. So we do change this as we hear from colleagues, as we will over the course of the week. Again, as I said, often a misconception that warehousing and transport are the only two areas of logistics that exist, and within that, very narrow job roles as well. But you can see here the whole gamut of logistics roles. So customer always at the heart of what we do, safety first, customer at the centre of what we do. And then in that inner circle, options that really kind of impact the logistics world proper, shall we say. So customer care, that might be business to business, it might be business to consumer. All the modes of transport, various different ways that we can operate warehouses, and then property and infrastructure, thinking about our buildings and our road networks. Around the outside, you have got all of the functions that make a logistics company or a company with a logistics function. Lots of functions in that sentence, and indeed lots of functions on that screen. So whether it is finance, IT, digital technology, there really is something for everyone. And one of the things that we get asked the most by young people is, what skills do I need to work in logistics? And I would always say, think about it the other way round. What skills do you have? And then where do you fit into this picture? Because there are so many options. Obviously, you've got your, perhaps slightly more obvious ones. If you're a maths person, finance, or perhaps solution design. If you enjoy kind of people skills, that you've got customer care, you've got HR. So there truly is something for everyone. And again, routes into the sector, something for everyone. So apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, graduate routes, and direct entry as well. Very, very popular in our sector to have direct entry roles and then climb up the career ladder, so to speak, when your young people are ready to do that. So hopefully a little bit of an eye-opener about the sector at large and that breadth and depth of roles. But we want to head now to Emily and Elliot and find out where they fit into that, a little bit about their career journey too. Who's kicking us off? Emily, why not? Go for it. Tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Emily. I actually joined logistics straight out of college. It wasn't a long-term plan, but as soon as I started working in logistics, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with how fast-paced it was, and the different challenges that you were posed with. And I love that every day was different as well. So at 18, I moved into logistics and never left. I started with Asda in 2018. I was a trainer in one of our depots. So I didn't go in with any skills, such as, or educational skills, such as a degree. I actually started as a colleague and worked my way up. So I moved out of depot in 2020 for a more central training role. And I'm now a technical facilitator. So I look after training and compliance in our ambient depots. So I look after 8 ambient depots and also look after the early careers offerings in ALS as well.
Brilliant. As the logistics services.
As the logistics services.
We love an acronym, don't we? We love an acronym in logistics. Thank you. Elliot, over to you. Tell us a bit about your background.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Elliot. I'm the general manager at Didcot Ambient Distribution Centre, which is a distribution centre that services the south coast across to London and the southwest with ambient products into our Asda stores. Got around 450 colleagues that work on site, a mix of drivers and warehouse, and then a team of leaders that report into me, which I look after. So I started with Asda as part of a graduate scheme at university. So that was 1 year at university, 2 years on placement. As part of those placement years, I completed the first 2 years of the Asda graduate scheme that was available at the time. And then from that, I've done various different leadership roles within the business. And I think it's really good when you touched on earlier around the different opportunities and different careers that you can have in logistics. And I've been fortunate to do many different roles, both centrally and operationally. I've tended to steer myself towards the operational roles because they're more leadership driven, working with people, like Emily said, fast paced, exciting environment to work in. But I think in answer to that question of, what skills did it take, I think you summed it up really well, is that there's so many different roles within logistics that it really is, to say you need a certain skill set or a certain degree would be false. You really can come from any background. It helps in certain roles, such as, finance roles, if you're into mathematics and numbers, but everything else, as long as you've got the right desire to get after your career, there's something there for everyone. I think I touched about it last time in the week when I presented before. But even if there's kids coming out of school that don't necessarily know what they want to be or what career path that they want to go into, roles as a warehouse colleague or a driver are really well paid roles that enable kids to come out of school into a work environment that enables them to earn good money whilst they're figuring out where they want to go and what they want to do next. I think Emily's a great example of coming into the business as a warehouse colleague and gone a completely different path afterwards and done really well for herself and developed through a career. So I think that's the thing with logistics. You can start at different points and find your way as you go. And I think that's really unique that not many industries have. A lot of industries, you have to go down a certain route, whether that's university or X, Y, and Z to get to where you want to be. And you have to go through a period of training and really know quite early on what you want to do. I think logistics is definitely one of them where there's so many people, so many general managers that we've got within Asda where they didn't start out wanting a career in logistics or knowing what they wanted to do. And because there's such an ability to grow and develop within the industry, they've become general managers or gone on to do different things. I think that's a good thing about the industry.
That's it. And we've said that the skill shortage that we have represents an opportunity for the teachers, young people, to sort of step in and step up if that's what they want to do. Sorry, Emily.
No, I was going to say, I think generally people have fallen into logistics, but hopefully we can change that and get young people excited about a career in logistics.
That's it. And that's what the whole week's about, kind of busting some of those myths. We've talked already about the kind of depth and breadth of roles in the sector. We've talked about that career progression as well. I think, lots of people think it is quite a poorly paid industry, and yet compared to things like retail or hospitality, we are well paid. I think that's fair to say, across a number of different levels. So definitely one to kind of think about steering your young people towards, particularly those that don't know what they want to do. As Elliot says, there's so much choice. You can kind of dip your toes in the water and see whether you like it, swap round, different departments. Again, that skill shortage means that there is the opportunity to do that. So tell us a little bit about a day in your life, Emily. What kinds of skills from school or college do you use to do your day job?
There isn't a day that goes by that I don't use, communication skills, teamwork. In my role specifically, I use a lot of analytical skills. These aren't skills that were developed through education. These are skills that everybody has. They can develop them whilst being in a role. I think in logistics, communication is key. It doesn't matter what role you go in. Everybody can communicate and everybody can develop the communication skills. Without that skill, it kind of, I don't know.
We wouldn't be able to kind of keep everything going, would we?
Yeah.
I don't think that is, and that's not only kind of external communication, but internal, arguably just as important to keep everything working smoothly.
Yeah. I think working as a team, it's just really important. Although my team are spread across the country, there's not a day that I don't hear from almost every single one of them. So even though we are spread across the country, we work as a team every single day. And, it doesn't matter whether you are a picker or whether you work in central logistics, teamwork and being able to work well as a team, it is really important.
Thank you. Elliot, what about you? Is there a standard day in the life of a GM?
I think trying to narrow it down to one specific skill set that you have to use would be difficult. I was thinking then trying to bring it back to academic routes and what subjects would lean towards it. And then to be honest with you, it's so varied. I think on a daily basis, mathematics, financial planning, understanding the cost element of our business plans and how we operate. Geography is kind of important in logistics and where everything is and where it's going.
Yep.
But I would genuinely say the subject that I studied at A-level that's probably most relevant to my day job would probably be psychology. Because
that's interesting.
Understanding how people work and how you get the best out of people is probably the most important part of my job. Because fundamentally you have, finance managers that understand finance, and you have transport ops that understands logistically where things should go. But understanding how people work and how you get the best out of people, I'd say psychology sort of lends itself towards that side of it.
What was your degree in?
Business management, so completely different.
yeah, very different. But that kind of well-rounded, and again, we sort of keep coming back to this, that it really is quite a well-rounded profession in terms of whatever your skills are. There is somewhat, if you're not a people person, HGV driving, you spend a lot of time on your own. So if you've got kids, in the class thinking, I could imagine them, needing their own space, great option. If you've got kids wanting to sort of progress quite quickly through that management, then those communication skills are, absolutely paramount. Thinking about, I guess, back to where we started, which was a myth, perhaps that people, not only our educators on the call, most people have, is that logistics is quite narrow and it's primarily picking and packing and driving. What other myths have you heard about working in logistics, kind of when you speak to friends, family, whoever it might be? What are their perceptions of what you do, and how have you tried to bust those myths? Emily, I guess being a lady is a big one.
The first one I think that comes to anybody's mind is that only men should work in logistics. I go to schools, and this is one of the myths that I kind of run through with the kids, and hope that they disagree with it, because I'm stood at the front of the school I'm telling them that I work in logistics. But the biggest myth is that logistics is just for men. It's absolutely not.
Yeah, plenty of ladies working in the field, absolutely, across all different levels as well. Elliot, any myths that you've heard when you've said I work in logistics?
Well, I think the key one is, like you said, people think it's just picking up boxes and moving boxes, and they understand everything that goes behind it and the different roles that's available that sit within the function. Because we do generally cover every single aspect of a business function as if it's a business entity in itself. So whether that be finance, people, legal, transportation, warehousing, training, every element of it's covered, and there's different roles there. And what's interesting is the roles that you take up within the distribution centre, you end up doing a little bit of each one. So you do get that exposure to things. So you get to try different things. Each day is different. You find yourself doing something one day that's completely different to what you've done before. And I think people have a conception that a distribution centre is, a dark, dingy place where people go and work on shifts and don't have a social life outside of it and that sort of thing. It isn't that at all. And I think when people come in and walk around our depot and they see how it is, they get it. But I think the key thing is how do we get people in through the door in the first place to see that and understand it. And I think it's good what you're doing at the minute of getting out there and speaking to people, because I think the challenge that there always is and has been with logistics is barristers, for example. The suits on TV, kids see that on TV and go, yes, I want to do that. There's hospital programs, police dramas. People see it and go, right, I want to be a policeman. I want to be this, but there isn't a drama yet for logistics on TV. Maybe I'm pitching it. Maybe if this goes really well and is on YouTube, we might get tapped up.
Let's get on it.
But it's that bit of, it's not in the limelight and the spotlight. Logistics is something that traditionally people have always never understood. It's always in the background and people don't appreciate how things get from A to B. I think that's changed a little bit with the likes of Amazon coming along, because they're fundamentally a fulfillment operation and it's a lot larger. You see a lot of them out on the road. It sort of raised the profile of that, sometimes not always in the right way with some documentaries there's been about them, but I think it is a case of how do we elevate that and bring it into the forefront and allow people to see into the industry and how it operates and see the opportunity that's in there, because I don't think it's necessarily had the spotlight on it.
No, we started to do that, I think, with things like how it's made and inside the factory from a manufacturing perspective. They do touch a little bit on logistics, but yeah, it's quite, if we're doing our job well, then we're not heard about, really, are we? Supermarket shelves stocked every day is not headline news. It's only headline news if something goes wrong. So yes, no, I agree with that entirely. Emily, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I think earlier you mentioned tech and that people don't actually realise the amount of tech that we actually use in logistics. One of the other myths is that automation will replace humans in logistics. And it's absolutely not true. You touched on it earlier that, we need skilled individuals to maintain service, keep this automation, move it every day. And it's not to replace humans, it's to make us better, make us quicker, make us faster, make us more efficient. That key word in logistics is to be as efficient as possible. And that's what automation does for us. But it's absolutely not to replace people. So that's one of the other myths that
that's a hugely important myth, I think, especially when teachers, when you're talking to your young people, and you will get that question, well, surely robots will do all of the picking and pack. Well, they might, but who's designing the robots? Who's servicing the robots? Who is planning the route? Who is, there's so many roles around that, whilst it might take one particular type of role away, many more will pop up. So yes, I think you're quite right, and that's important when we think about future proofing. I think we will always have logistics. I think even when we invent teleportation, the people who tell you what you can put in your teleporter and what time you can they'll be the logisticians of the future. So I think it's a fairly solid sector. It's just people that can sort of move with the change is really important. And, obviously that's another key skill for for young people to have, is that sort of resilience and adaptability, I think. Before I come to you both with a final question, which will be, how would you encourage our educators on the call to promote logistics in their classroom? I just want to give our teachers and careers leads another quick overview of what we have ready for you across both Generation Logistics Week and more broadly. So we have our Generation Logistics Hub, which is our central campaign website for students. Over 150 case studies, real people doing real jobs with real passion, some video, some written, but all of those different job families have got case studies. There's also a Find Your Future quiz that young people can do based on things they like, that their personal qualities, that's not school related, pop out in a job family. So I appreciate 15 odd job families is a lot. This helps them to narrow it down as a bit of a starting point. You've also got the opportunities board on there with adverts for apprenticeships, degree apprenticeships, direct entry roles, etc. A blog with lots of interesting facts about sustainability, about all kinds of different things, warehousing, lots on there for them to have a read, and links to all sponsors and partners for their early talent initiatives. For those of you on the call, we've got the Education Hub. Free to use, everything is free to use, easy to download, one click, no data capture, nothing like that. And we've got curriculum mapped resources for you to plug and play into existing lessons, as well as careers information as well. So there is in fact a vidcast on there called AI Will Take Logistics Jobs, busting that myth, for example. There's also the ability on there to request an ambassador, brilliant people like Emily and Elliot, who will come into schools, and I will touch more on that in a second. But just quickly, this is what the Education Hub looks like. You literally click that orange button and off you go. So plenty on there. Ambassadors, as we said, we've got lots up and down the country, and they are our boots on the ground. They are real people doing the do, coming into schools and colleges, promoting the profession. So we ask our ambassadors to give an hour. We've had lots, as you've seen on the billing for Generation Logistics Week, participate across this week, but they do that across the academic year as well. So plenty of opportunities on the Education Hub for you to send in that form and say, please, can we have an ambassador? Finally, the week itself, welcome to Generation Logistics Week, whatever part of the week you are joining us in. We've got plenty. Virtual Careers Fair, please do take a look at that. That will run indefinitely, but do get your young people over to that this year if you can. A really good chance to walk around, see some of those videos and meet all of our sponsors. Lots of content there for you as well. We've talked about ambassadors already, and plenty going on across socials and via STEM Learning's newsletter and mail shot as well. So do keep an eye on what's going on both during the week and beyond. You've got my email there, which I will just leave up before I go for my final question to Elliot and Emily. If you've got other comments, questions or concerns, you can reach me by email or through the Generation Logistics website. So as promised, final question, captive audience of our educators, teachers and careers leads on the call. They are our advocates in classroom. We would love to be in schools and colleges all day, every day, singing the praises of logistics, but sadly, we have to keep Great Britain fed, watered and moving. So how do we encourage our educators on the call to advocate for us? What would you say that our educators could be sharing in the classroom to talk about why this is a great profession? Emily, will you kick us off?
I think one of the things that stands out when I go into schools is, potential careers. Schools generally have a board of potential careers that students can move on to and think about. I'm yet to see, a big place on there for logistics, for the different careers and roles in logistics. So I think if teachers could kind of do some research and think about what roles sit in logistics and can they put them up on the board as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, quick, simple, easy. We've got posters, we've got all sorts that you can download and put up there, and it just helps get that language into schools. Yeah, really easy to advocate for the sector that way. A really top tip. Thank you. Elliot.
Yeah, so for me, it's similar sort of things. It's talking about it and bringing it to life. I'd encourage anyone as well to reach out and get an ambassador to come into the school and talk to the kids. I think for me, when I went onto the university course I went on to, and the placements following that was from someone coming into school and talking to me about this is what they did. And, you know, you sit there and listen and you think, yeah, I could see myself doing that. That's what I want to do. So I think having someone come in there to share that experience, even if that's a handful of kids off the back of it, go, actually, that's given me some clarity on what I want to do or what I want to pursue. Then I think that's really important. And I think as well, getting out there and seeing a distribution centre, if you're nearby one of the ASDA depots as an example, or any of the other partners for Generation Logistics, getting out there, it's a good place to go and do a school trip to see things and to bring it to life. I think the more we can bring it to life in the classroom through doing that, the better. And there must also be some fun activities you can do in school, right, around logistics, around route planning, case stacking, that sort of stuff. I think it'd be quite good.
Yeah, and we've got lots of those on the Education Hub. We support teacher encounters with the Careers Enterprise Company. We had 60 teachers that Elliot did a site tour with at Lutterworth. We've got all the resources there as well. So please do get in touch. Please do let us be useful to you to advocate for that really wide range of careers in the classroom. Thank you all very much for joining us. We hope that you will have gotten a lot out of Generation Logistics Week. Virtual Careers Fair ongoing. Please do encourage your students to tuck into that if possible. And we will look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.